Hello and welcome to our morning edition of Arirang News. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. President Lee Jae-myung and U.S. President Donald Trump meet in Gyeongju for a summit as Trump visits for APEC. Two big announcements, the trade deal close and a nuclear-powered submarine. What these mean, our team in Gyeongju explains. A high-stakes meeting set for two big powers. U.S. President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping will meet this morning. What to expect from that summit? The U.S. Fed cuts the interest rate by a 1/4 percentage point. The decision, however, was not unanimous, and a further reduction in December is uncertain. Good morning. We begin in Gyeongju, where APEC leaders have started to gather. A summit between President Lee Jae-myung and U.S. President Donald Trump on Wednesday resulted in a trade deal. Korea will make investments worth $200 billion in cash in return for lower U.S. tariffs on cars. This comes after 3 months of negotiations. Our senior presidential office correspondent Yoon starts us off.
After the second summit between Presidents Lee Jae-myung and Donald Trump in just 2 months, a trade deal has been announced.
We reached a deal. We did a lot of different things. We had a great session.
The two leaders met in Gyeongju on Wednesday for about an hour and a half, followed by a special dinner. Among the $350 billion investment package from South Korea, $200 billion will be in cash, and the amount that Seoul pays will be capped at $20 billion a year.
The investments will be made in dollars in accordance with business progress, so they will remain within a range that South Korea's foreign exchange market can withstand.
Similar to the deal the U.S. made with Japan earlier, profits generated from Korean investments will be equally shared with the U.S. until the initial investment is recouped. The remaining $150 billion will be dedicated to cooperation for shipbuilding.
대미 투자 확대를 통해서 또 대미 구매 확대를 통해서 미국의 제조 부흥을 지원하고 조선 협력도 적극적으로 해 나가도록 하겠습니다.
As a result, the U.S. tariffs on South Korean cars will be lowered from 25% to 15%. The U.S. reciprocal tariffs will stay at 15%. Pharmaceutical and lumber items will be granted most favored nation treatment, and airplane parts and generic drugs will be free from tariffs. For Korea, there will be no additional opening of the market in the agricultural sector, such as rice and beef, given the sensitivity of the matter. The announcement came as a surprise, with not many expecting the outcome this time, following the nearly 3-month-long tug-of-war trade talks. Eyes are now on when the tariffs will be actually lowered. Yoon, Arirang News, Gyeongju.
Security was also another major focus of the summit between Presidents Lee Jae-myung and Donald Trump in Gyeongju. It appears significant progress was made as President Trump revealed this morning that he had approved South Korea to build nuclear-powered submarines. Our presidential office correspondent Song Yoo-jin also reports this from Gyeongju.
One of the key proposals President Lee Jae-myung raised during his second summit with U.S. President Donald Trump was South Korea building nuclear-powered submarines.
연료 공급을 허용을 해주시면 저희가 저희 기술로 재래식 무기를 탑재한 잠수함을 여러 척 건조해서 우리 한반도 동해서해에 해역 방어 활동을 하면 미군의 부담도 상당히 많이 줄어들 수 있을 것이다라는 생각이 듭니다.
President Trump made it official on Thursday, posting on social media that he had, quote, given approval to build a nuclear-powered submarine, mentioning that the sub would be built in Philadelphia. Nuclear-powered submarines can stay submerged far longer and operate much more quietly than diesel-powered ones, making them harder to detect. But under the current South Korea-U.S. nuclear cooperation agreement, Seoul is barred from using nuclear power for military purposes and from producing or importing highly enriched uranium, the fuel needed for such submarines. In this context, President Lee asked for his American counterpart to advance substantive discussions on revising the decades-old agreement. Also high on the agenda was North Korea. While both leaders acknowledged that the highly anticipated meeting between President Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un would not take place this time, President Lee again emphasized Trump's potential role as a peacemaker on the Korean Peninsula.
대통령께서 김정은 위원장과의 회담을 요청을 하고 언제든지 받아들일 수 있다라고 말씀하신 것은 그 자체만으로도 이 한반도에 상당한 평화의 온기를 만들어내는 것이기도 합니다.
And I know you are officially at war, but we will see what we can do to get that all straightened out. I know Kim Jong-un very well. We get along very well.
Lee first proposed the peacemaker and pacemaker framework during their August summit at the White House, calling on President Trump to help bring Pyongyang back to dialogue, while pledging that Seoul would help sustain the momentum. South Korea's presidential office says the results of the summit, including key points from the security talks, will be released as a fact sheet. Attention now turns to what tangible results the summit will deliver, as the government has been stressing a mutually beneficial agreement that protects national interests. 송유진, Arirang News, Gyeongju.
Now, today all eyes are going to be on South Korea, with U.S. President Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping holding a summit this morning. For more on this, our Kim Bo-kyung is on the line. Bo-kyung, so when exactly is this high-stakes summit going to happen, and how are the two countries expecting this meeting to unfold?
Well, Doyon, good morning. The White House announced that the high-stakes meeting between Trump and Xi is going to be held in Busan at 11 a.m. today. President Trump departed the Hilton Hotel around 30 to 40 minutes ago and is traveling to Kimhae International Airport in the southern city of Busan in his presidential state car nicknamed the Beast. This will be the first time for the leaders of the world's biggest economies to meet since Trump began his second term. It has been more than 6 years since they came face-to-face at the G20 summit in Osaka, Japan. And a key point of their meeting is, of course, whether they will be able to yield a breakthrough in the quarrelsome trade relationship. During his speech at the CEO summit, Trump was optimistic that the two superpowers could make a deal, as was the Chinese spokesperson who said China would make efforts to ensure a positive outcome. Listen to this.
President Xi of China is coming tomorrow here, and we're going to be, I hope, making a deal. I think we're going to have a deal. I think it'll be a good deal for both. And that's really a great result. You know, that's better than fighting and going through all sorts of problems. And
we are willing to make joint efforts with the United States to ensure the meeting produces positive outcomes and to provide fresh guidance and new impetus for the stable development of China-U.S. relations.
Right. Now, what are the top agenda items that will be discussed between the two?
Right. Well, there are several, and with the main framework of a potential trade deal already agreed during U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Chinese Vice Premier He Lifeng's meeting in Malaysia, now we need to see whether the two leaders can finalize the deal. The biggest part is the issue of tariffs. China, the world's largest rare earth exporter, previously announced a major expansion of export controls effective from December 1st, to which Trump said he would impose an additional 100% tariff on Chinese goods from November in response. This has been managed, with Bessent having said that China is expected to defer its export controls on rare earths and avoid the tariff that Trump has threatened to impose on Chinese goods. And all eyes are on whether this issue gets fully dealt with in today's meeting. Trump already hinted at cutting tariffs imposed on China over fentanyl from the current 20% to 10%, while aboard Air Force One on Wednesday, saying he believes China will be able to help the U.S.'s fentanyl situation. Meanwhile, China's state-owned grain company COSCO Group recently purchased 180,000 tons of U.S. soybeans, the country's first purchases from this year's U.S. harvest. Possible agenda items could also include easing U.S. export controls on software to China and a coordinated reduction or withdrawal of the hefty port entry fees that both countries have imposed on each other's shipbuilding and trade industries. Well, this is all from me for now, but I will bring more updates in our later newscast. Back to you, Doyon.
Thank you. Do keep us updated. Now, South Korea, the U.S., and Japan have reaffirmed their cooperation during a trilateral foreign ministers meeting held in Gyeongju on the sidelines of APEC. Foreign Minister Cho Hyun met with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Japan's new Foreign Minister Toshimitsu Motegi, marking their first trilateral gathering since Japan's new leader took office. Cho said it was meaningful to hold the meeting shortly after Japan's cabinet reshuffle and proposed stronger cooperation to bolster regional supply chain resilience and address joint challenges across the Indo-Pacific. Rubio and Motegi reaffirmed their commitment to work together for peace, stability, and prosperity in the region. The three ministers agreed to maintain close coordination on North Korea upholding the goal of complete denuclearization and to continue diplomatic efforts to ensure peace and stability through dialogue and consultation. From ancient Silla to APEC 2025 Korea, Gyeongju is proving that tradition never fades, rather it transforms. A dazzling Hanbok fashion show brought Korea's cultural beauty to the world stage. Our Park Hyo-bin was there.
Under the glow of nine lights, models in Hanbok, Korea's traditional attire, brought the country's timeless elegance to life. Gyeongju, the ancient city of Silla, once again shines as Korea's capital of culture. Ahead of APEC 2025 Korea, a Hanbok fashion show was held on Wednesday evening on a floating stage over Gyeongju Bridge in Gyeongju.
It's my first time seeing a Hanbok fashion show in person. My kids really enjoyed it too. I realized how beautiful Hanbok can be. It was a refreshing and joyful experience.
Set against the backdrop of the Silla-era bridge connecting the royal palace and the city gates, the runway was designed in the shape of the Korean letter Hyut. The show featured 5 symbols of Korean heritage: Korean traditional clothes, architecture, food, paper, and the alphabet with advanced technology.
This show stands out from traditional ones. Its theme is Inheriting Tradition, Flying with Technology. It features royal Silla costumes, APEC commemorative Hanbok, AI-designed pieces, and drone displays showing a new future for Hanbok culture.
The event was attended by South Korea's First Lady Kim Hae-kyung, the spouse of Canada's Prime Minister, and other distinguished guests from home and abroad, as well as locals. The world put the spotlight on Hanbok, sharing the beauty of Korea's tradition with the global audiences.
Gyeongsang-buk-do province is home to materials like silk and rami that have long supported Korea's hanbok industry. We hope to share this cultural legacy with the world.
Linking past and present, Hanbok is a living symbol of Korea's cultural spirit and evolving identity.
The Hanbok fashion show brought together Korea's timeless heritage with cutting-edge technology. It's also a stage for cultural diplomacy, sharing the beauty of tradition with the world. Park Hyo-bin, Arirang News, Gyeongju.
Now, many other cultural events are also taking place across Gyeongju City, and one standout is a media art event where visitors can enjoy the city's night view to the fullest. Our culture correspondent Park Gun-woo also takes us there.
When night falls on Korea's ancient capital, Gyeongju, the city once home to kings and queens awakens, not through rituals or history, but through light. Every 20 minutes from 6:30 p.m. until 10 p.m., Itaewon, a royal tomb complex, turns into a massive outdoor canvas. Using light and sound delicately designed to protect the heritage site, the show brings to life the interiors of the tombs, along with relics that were discovered inside.
It's a symbolic space where our cultural roots and spirit come alive, so it goes beyond just being a visual art experience. It's a dialogue with the past and present. The media art is titled Monghwa, meaning a glowing dream. We aim to make visitors feel as if they were stepping into their dream.
As the stunning media art show continues, trying on this traditional Silla Dynasty outfit, complete with its golden accents, is a fantastic way to truly immerse yourself in Gyeongju, the capital city of Silla, with 1,000 years of history.
Those who want this immersive experience can try it out after registering on site on a first-come, first-served basis before the weekend shows. Since the event kicked off last Friday, more than 11,000 people have already visited and enjoyed themselves.
I bet this is the first media art show ever held at a tomb anywhere in the world. I wish events like this are held regularly so that the city can grow even further. It'll be a good way to promote Gyeongju to a wider audience.
Around a fifth of the total visitors have been foreign nationals, coming from near and far during the APEC event.
I really like the thing on the hill, so the whole sound and music kind of really worked well together. Switzerland is not really known for light and art displays.
Creating an inspiration. I think my friends would like it. Yeah, I would definitely show them video of this show.
As night falls on the ancient capital, Gyeongju's royal tombs come to life, where 1,000 years of history meet the glow of modern light, through November 16th, illuminating the city's path toward the next 1,000 years. 박건우, Arirang News, Gyeongju.
The U.S. Federal Reserve announced a 25 basis point interest rate cut on Wednesday, despite a divided decision among policymakers. Fed Chairman Jerome Powell also stressed that a further reduction in the policy rate at the December meeting is uncertain. Our Lee Seung-jae has more.
The U.S. Federal Reserve announced a quarter-point interest rate cut on Wednesday, marking a divided decision among policymakers. The move lowers the federal funds rate to a range of 3.75 to 4.00% and comes as the central bank works to ease concerns over tightening liquidity in money markets.
Today, the Federal Open Market Committee decided to lower our policy interest rate by a quarter percentage point.
However, with a 10-2 vote, the decision was not unanimous. Two members dissented, Governor Stephen Moran, who pushed for a larger reduction to support slowing growth, and Kansas City Fed President Jeffrey Schmidt, who opposed any cut, citing ongoing inflation risks. The split highlights growing divisions within the central bank as it navigates an uncertain economic outlook. Speaking after the meeting, U.S. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell acknowledged the sharp differences within the committee. He cautioned that while some members favor additional easing, others want to pause. The Fed chair also noted that another rate cut in December is still uncertain.
In the committee's discussions at this meeting, there were strongly differing views about how to proceed in December. A further reduction in the policy rate at the December meeting is not a foregone conclusion. Far from it. Policy is not on a preset course.
With the Bank of Korea freezing its rates earlier this month, the gap between the two central banks' rates now stands at 1.25 to 1.50%. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Marking 3 years since the Itaewon crowd crush, memorial events were held across the Seoul metropolitan area to honor the 159 victims. At Noksapyeong Square near the site of the tragedy, families and members of the public gathered Wednesday evening to share messages of remembrance. In Gyeonggi-do Province, another memorial took place at Suwon Rodeo Plaza with a choir performance by bereaved families and speeches of solidarity. Families said their grief remains even after 3 years, urging people not to forget the tragedy and to keep working toward a safer nation. Now, former President Yoon Suk-yeol is expected to appear at his ongoing insurrection trial on Thursday, marking his first courtroom appearance in nearly 4 months. Yoon has been in detention since July on charges of leading an insurrection and abusing power over his failed attempt to impose martial law last December. He previously attended a separate trial in September related to the same case and a hearing on his bail request. At Thursday's session, former Army Special Warfare Commander Kwak Jong-gun is scheduled to testify. Kwak has claimed that Yoon ordered him to forcibly remove lawmakers from the National Assembly during the brief martial law period.
Good morning, I'm Chu Ji-hyun, and this is The World Now. Hurricane Melissa continued its destructive path across the Caribbean on Wednesday, pounding Cuba and the Bahamas after making landfall in Jamaica on Tuesday as one of the strongest storms ever recorded in the region. Officials report at least 23 deaths in Haiti, 8 in Jamaica, and 1 in the Dominican Republic as flooding and landslides devastate communities. Melissa, at one point Category 5 hurricane with 185-mile-per-hour winds, has now weakened to Category 2 but remains highly dangerous. The U.S. National Hurricane Center warns of storm surges of up to 7 feet and flooding across southeastern Cuba and the Bahamas. More than 77% of Jamaica is still without power, while damaged roads and downed communication lines hamper relief efforts. The U.S., UK, and United Nations have begun sending aid and rescue teams, though officials say the full extent of damage is still unknown. In Moscow on Wednesday, President Vladimir Putin announced that Russia had successfully tested its Poseidon nuclear-powered super torpedo, a weapon that analysts say could devastate coastal regions with radioactive ocean waves. Putin said the test took place on Tuesday, confirming the torpedo was launched from a submarine and that its nuclear propulsion system was activated for the first time. Talking to wounded soldiers at a Moscow hospital, Putin said, quote, "There is nothing like this," boasting the Poseidon cannot be intercepted and can travel about 10,000 kilometers at speeds, near 185 kilometers per hour. The test follows Russia's Burevestnik missile launch last week. Arms experts say Poseidon breaks traditional deterrence norms, carrying an estimated 2 megaton warhead capable of triggering massive underwater explosions. France's Senate approved a landmark bill adding consent to the country's rape law on Wednesday. Lawmakers say the move closes long criticized legal gaps exposed by high-profile sexual assault case. The new legislation redefines rape and sexual assault as, quote, any non-consensual act, requiring that consent be informed, specific, prior, and revocable, and not implied by silence or lack of resistance. The bill still requires President Emmanuel Macron's signature before becoming law. The reform follows the case of Giselle Pellicot, whose husband and dozens of others were convicted of raping her over nearly a decade, a trial that exposed what campaigners call a gray area in French law. Supporters say the change will make it easier to prosecute sexual violence and raise public awareness around mutual consent.
Today we are finally settling into a classic late autumn day, but we surely needed to wear a warm jacket on the way out this morning. Temperatures will warm up by about 10 degrees or even more, making for a pleasant and crisp afternoon. But remember to regulate your body temperature with outer layers. Gyeongju, where the APEC summit is taking place, had a chilly start to the day, but it is warming up nicely. And that warming trend should continue through Saturday under a fair amount of sunshine. And this afternoon, most areas will warm up to nearly 20 degrees Celsius with more clouds rolling in for the southern parts of Korea. Seoul, Daejeon, Daegu will be topping out at 18 degrees, Busan, Jeju at 21 degrees. Now, the weather will hold steady through the weekend, giving us beautiful late autumn conditions. Meanwhile, rain is forecast to return late tomorrow night into Saturday morning for the central region, Jeollado, and Jeju Island. And that's going to bring another batch of cold air to the country early next week.
That's all we have for this morning. Arirang News will be back at noon Korea time. Thanks for watching.